You are listening to the Old Skool Movements podcast with Daz, Chris and Steve. You understand?
Yes, it's a new year, it's 2022 and we're back with the Old Skool Movement. We're still old school, even though it's 2022, we're still here with the 80s.
Gotta keep it old school.
Isn't it? Yeah, mate. Yeah, keep it old school, man.
2000. It's like 2020 part 2 saying 2022. I'm not liking it. I mean, it sounds like it's part 2 2020.
Part 2.
Like, yeah. 2022.
It's back.
Another thing that's freaking me out a bit is like, we chat about the 80s. If we were in the 80s talking about the time distance it's been now, we'd be chatting about World War II.
Yeah, crazy.
That's like freaking me out a bit, man. It's like, shit, we're getting old.
It's crazy, isn't it? Getting old, it's getting old. But you are on the ride with us, so that's great. It's great that you guys are joining in. This fantastic.
We're there to reminisce.
You're all in the same boat.
We're all in the same boat, the old boat. Yeah, in this fantastic 80s ride. And in this episode, the first episode of the year, we're going to go through part 2 of our 80s remakes, man. As we told you last year, there's loads of 80s remakes that we didn't know were remakes, watching them when we were young. And now we've got another 4 with a bonus. So let's get straight into them, man.
These are both by the same sort of production company as well. But we'll start with the first one. The first one, everyone's got their favourite Dracula. You've all got your favourite Dracula. Mine was the one that used to count on Sesame Street, but he's my favourite.
I forgot about him, you know.
yeah, for real.
But going to the film Dracula, though, for me, it's always been Christopher Lee. Is like, you think of Dracula, you think of Christopher Lee, isn't it? It's...
Yeah, Dracula. Like Dracula's one of those characters that he just pops up every decade or every 2 years.
There's a remake. Yeah, there's some version, isn't there? Yeah.
Throughout my childhood, I've just seen Dracula. He's just always been there.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Always been there. But I never discovered his true identity until I get older. I just saw a guy with fangs, and he would turn into a bat.
And he used to drink blood.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he didn't like garlic, stake through the heart. That was about the only thing you knew until sort of later on. 91, 92, around that time. Yeah.
92, it's 92.
92. So yeah, it weren't till then you started understanding the story.
Yeah.
Dracula first come about in 1931 was the first film that got released. I don't think I've ever seen this one. It was Universal Pictures, and it was the first sound version of Dracula ever to be shown on a big screen. So back in 31. But it was the next one that I remember. I saw this before the 90s version, obviously, and this was the Christopher Lee one. 1958, Hammer Horror Films, Dracula, which had to be renamed for the American market because of that 1931. They had to change the name, call it something else.
What did they change it to?
Horror of Dracula, it was called.
Okay.
And it was also distributed by Universal, who'd done the 31 one, which is why they sort of changed the name.
So sorry, Dracula is from Transylvania, right?
Yeah.
That's where he's from, right? Is that a name? Dracula is that a common name? Is his name Dracula Smith? Like
his family, when it the surname.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Is it his what's his first name then? It's Dracula his Christian name?
Count, and he's a count.
Count Dracula.
Yeah, but he weren't born Count.
He might be
Vlad, isn't it? Vlad, isn't it? Vlad the Impaler or Vlad? Vladimir, Vlad or something.
So his surname's Dracula.
Isn't that what the story's kind of loosely based on?
I'm sure that is.
Yeah, it is.
He must become the Count, who is Count Dracula. But Transylvania is a place in, was it Romania, isn't it? It's
Romania, yeah.
I'd like to go there, man. It's quite nice.
So what? So his parents' surname's Dracula. His dad's...
he must be the descendants of. I don't know. He hasn't died, has he? He's never died. He's been alive 500 years, isn't he, or whatever?
So Dracula is a family name.
I think it's the family name.
Or is it like Clark Kent is Superman? Is Dracula his name when he's flying and he looks like that? Is he when Dracula then?
When he's the bat.
That's the best disguise of any villain. Like, how could that bat be him? That's not him. That's the best. He's the best. He's the best at disguising who he really is. He could be.
I don't think they could do them effects until the 90s version though, because I'm sure they didn't have them in the 1930s.
No. I swear they had like when they were in plastic bats you get
yeah.
I swear just one of them on a string, just coming to a window, flying into the window. You know that bat? You know that
puff of smoke.
Yeah.
And then he appears.
Yeah, I remember that bat. But it was from a novel written in like 1897, and when I found out about it in the 90s, and I said learning about his story,
Bram Stoker.
it's more Bram Stoker's, because he's the one that wrote it.
Yeah.
18, like his name is Vladimir Paler, and his whole story is just about true love. He would do anything. He was like Meatloaf. He would do anything for love, and just to find that woman again, the woman he lost all those centuries ago. So he made a deal with the devil so he could live eternally just to find his love.
Find her, and he believed that she was going to live on or something in someone else.
She'll be reincarnated.
Reincarnated.
Through centuries, so he could be with her. But the only way he can survive is by killing others and lust and blood. So it's a true love story. It's one of the greatest love stories. Yeah, it's one of the greatest love stories, because that's the level of love. Like, you know, you want to find your missus again, and you're ready to live centuries and kill people.
Do that.
You can find a version of her,
and not see
not
daylight.
Her, a version, and not no beaches, no
Beaches, giving up the holidays.
Yeah, like just to live in darkness and drink blood.
No fun stuff.
Yeah, the original Batman. I said
The original Batman.
Seeing it, so seeing it when we were little, as you say, Christopher Lee. We think that's the first time, but no, as you said, he was around since
the 30s.
Yeah,
31
since the 30s.
Since 1897, when the book was in people's imaginations.
Yeah,
then on screen from 31. What I liked about the 58 one, the 58 was almost like a prequel to Star Wars, though. You had Peter Cushing in it, and you had Christopher Lee. It was like Dooku versus Moff Tarkin, and it was just
exactly. They were building. They were building
the Star Wars. So what's going on there, man?
Yeah, for real.
I don't know how you managed to tie Star Wars to Dracula.
On the sly, a lot of Star Wars actors are probably in them Hammer House things.
Loads of them. Hammer House were good. What I liked about Christopher's Lee character, that's when they introduced the bigger fangs, the red contact lenses, the wooden stakes, and you had that credit scene where you just saw his coffin and blood splatting across it coming from off screen. Like that shot, you know, I just think of Dracula when I see that, and also his way of portraying the character as well, sort of hinted that women might quite like this stranger. So he sort of took him in a trance where that hadn't been sort of done in the other Dracula. So it was sort of it was
very debonair. He wore a cravat. This one,
wore a cravat.
silk, the finest threads for lust. But before him, there was what's it, Nosferatu? That what's that? Long, skinny, crazy one.
Oh yeah, that was a silent one. That wasn't a silent one.
Yeah, the silent. Yeah, the vampire. Like, but I'm trying to wonder what came first, the vampire or Dracula? Like, are vampires from Dracula? Or
I always thought so. Did vampires come first, and did someone invent Dracula from?
Yeah. Invent Dracula, like he's their poster boy, or was. Do you know what I mean? He's a poster boy of vampires, or are they just all from him? Did he create? These are my vampires.
Never thought of that before, but
interesting.
You know what I mean? Because throughout the years, you've got all these vampire films that we saw, like The Lost Boys, and
that was a good one.
Interview with a Vampire, Blade, and all the rest of it. And you think to yourself, they never referenced Dracula.
They're just vampires.
Apart from Blade did. Blade did when the vampires came. I'm sure there was a Dracula one of them. But let's say The Lost Boys and that. They never reference. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
saying that, like referencing though, there was an old 1970s TV show made for British TV. But I remember seeing a rerun of it in the 80s, and it was a weird Dracula TV show. But from that, Marvel created a Dracula character for a comic book, a series. It was Jack Palance that played Dracula. I remember you see him sitting on the cover. If you saw the picture of it, you'll remember seeing it like advertised coming this Saturday, whether on BBC or whatever it was on. But it was from that Marvel created a Dracula comic book character on that version. It looked like him, like it was weird. And he looked, what he reminded me of was, is it the Addams Family? Was there a Dracula in the Addams?
Yeah, the grandpa.
He looked like that one, and I thought it's like you couldn't take him seriously. He looked like that with the big collar and but it was funny. That look. Yeah, the red behind the collar. The red and black cape sort of thing. That's
what I mean. Dracula is such a he's such an iconic figure growing up. You can never avoid him. He's always in your life somewhere. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
But you've never really been scared of him because do you know what I mean? I've never really been scared of the whole Dracula thing. I just find them interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But
there was a werewolf, you're a bit okay. Yeah, this could be like some heads coming off. But with a Dracula, you know, not much gonna happen, man. He's either gonna burn or he's gonna bite someone's neck. That's all that's gonna happen.
Do you know what I mean?
Do you ever remember though, off the back of the '90s one, there was a Mel Brooks version with Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah, I think it's called Dracula Dead and Loving.
Dead and Loving, was it Dead or Alive or Dead and Living or something? Yeah, that was a good one.
So many versions. As you're saying, Sesame Street had the Count. Like he's pop culture. He's a popular guy. There's so many versions.
And I think Christopher Lee calls that, like his character calls that pop culture version of Dracula to come.
Yeah,
to be
that
popular.
look.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and this guy goes around killing people at night. That's his job, killing people and going through centuries. But no,
that's his job.
That's his thing, isn't it? Just fooling people so they can kill them.
Did you ever see the more recent one? There was one out a few years ago, two or 3 years ago. One come out. Oh no, it was 2019, maybe last year. It went last year. It must be year before. A new one, I think it was on the BBC, and it's worth watching. It's a modern day version, but it starts off in them days.
Hear about it.
It's worth watching. It's quite good. And a little bit of trivia, that was where they first filmed the 1950s Dracula. They filmed it at Bray Studios, and that sort of shut down years after, but it shut down. But they reopened it, and the first thing they shot back there again was Dracula.
Dracula again.
And that was
come full circle.
Yeah, come full circle sort of thing.
Yeah. But the big question is, seeing all these vampire films of Dracula, did you ever think what would it like to be a vampire?
Yeah.
Would you ever? Because a vampire, they live for centuries. When I saw an Interview with a Vampire, and there's a bit when Brad Pitt's character, he was around since whenever. And there's a bit when he says, I watched black and white turn to Technicolor. And he's in the cinema, like, watching Superman in color now. It's like, shit, I'm seeing, you know how we talk about the 80s, like this podcast, how we've seen things happen. But living like that, you're seeing like
centuries.
You're seeing horse and cart to car. You see, you know what I mean?
You're seeing the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, yeah. You're seeing two guys saying, I'm thinking of building a store called Marks and Spencer, you know. But there's two guys who sell fruit and veg. Let's see what happens. Yeah, you're seeing those kind of transitions as a vampire. You know, it's just that, you know.
I did think of it like that, and I think it's the people you're gonna sort of love and lose, though, isn't it? Because there's gonna be there's gonna be too much of that to handle for me. So I was like, no. Yeah, and I did.
But then, if you could bite them, if you could bite them, then they would live.
I suppose you turn them.
They'll join you.
Just turn
them.
True blood.
Yeah. That's it. Exactly. You got all these TV series,
spin-offs. Some of these are quite good.
Twilight. There's so many versions of how Dracula is represented. But for me, it is that classic cape with the red back.
Yeah.
It's a story that can be told year after year. It can be
year after year.
All you need is a good filmmaker, and you know they can make that, change it, make it better each time. Definitely.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but Eddie Murphy tried with Vampire in Brooklyn.
Oh yeah, that one wasn't good.
Terrible.
Yeah, that one wasn't good.
It weren't good.
I didn't have a good filmmaker.
He looked like the guy he played in Coming to America. You know, like Randy Johnson, but a vampire.
I think that's what they were going for.
It's just him, but a vampire. Like, what? Randy Watson.
I come here to bite some necks and
yeah. You know what I mean? Thank you very much. Thank you. What the hell? I thought that film was terrible.
It was terrible.
How could you get it wrong? Eddie Murphy and vampires, and you messed it up. Like
terrible.
Hard. Anyway, Bram Stoker's Dracula, love it.
Good film.
Dracula's been throughout our lives for, you know, and generations always get introduced to him. Now kids watch Hotel Transylvania and so on. So they're always introduced to him. Always introduced to this guy. Yeah. This and his role in life is to kill people and drink their blood.
And he is going to live forever because you know they're going to keep on going with him, so he will live forever.
Yeah.
That sort of rolls into our next one as well. It's another Hammer horror. You know, if you like Draculas, you'd probably end up quite liking Mummies as well.
That's right.
The mummies I like were the Scooby-Doo ones. I preferred the Scooby-Doo mummies than the film mummies, to be honest. I wasn't a great fan of any of the mummies, to be honest. Again, there was a 1932 original that got done by the British Hammer Horror production company.
That was
again.
the first.
59 that was. So after the success of Dracula, it started spinning off more Draculas and these other characters like the Mummy.
Yeah, that's right. And like people, like new generation saw like the Brendan Fraser one in 1999, and that was, that brought that back to the fold. But for us, Mummy was like that dude in the background, isn't it? Like, the pack was Dracula, Wolfman, Frankenstein, and the Mummy.
Like the cartoon,
that cartoon. And when I said Dracula was the least frightening, I think, allow that. It's the Mummy that's not the least frightening. Do you know what I mean?
Just toilet rolls, really. He was always just like wrapped in toilet rolls.
It couldn't walk, couldn't run fast, and he's just, do you know what I mean?
You'd only have to pull a bit of cloth and it'd unspin and it just dropped to the floor. Like,
but the thing is, like, if it did catch you, what would it do?
Exactly, what's it gonna do?
Exactly.
We never found out.
I think it was meant to be like, from what I can remember in maybe a film, it sucks your soul or something, or it takes your life like through sucking your soul out or something. Black magical spiritual Egyptian-y business going on.
Not in Scooby-Doo.
Not in the Scooby-Doo.
They weren't.
The Scooby-Doo ones weren't doing nothing. They were the background.
Not in those cartoons. But the thing is, the mummy ain't like the whole twist of the Mummy. Out of all these creatures, the Mummy is the actual real.
Yeah.
They exist. You know what I mean?
They're real things. Yeah.
These are just people wrapped up, and preserved.
We should be more scared of that because it exists, whereas these other things are.
These things are just made up. A man that turns to a bat, a man that's sewn together and now walks around. A man that turns to a werewolf. These things don't exist.
Mummies are there.
Mummy one,
you can go British Museum and see them. Yeah, they're there.
And see them. Do you know what I mean? But again, my problem is, why make them scary? Just leave them alone. That happened. You could have added anything, a lizard or something. You bring something that actually exists. Forget the Mummy.
Well, it's bringing the dead back to life, isn't it? So.
I suppose so. It's probably what began the whole zombie thing. The Mummy is probably the genesis of the zombie, as you said, bringing things back to life. But don't want to see him wrapped in toilet roll now. Let's see the actual being looking decomposed. That's probably we're finding out things on this podcast today.
Educational, man.
That's probably why the Mummy exists. They even remade the 1999 Mummy with Tom Cruise, didn't they?
What?
Yeah.
They remade.
Yeah,
quite recently, isn't it? There's the Mummy come out in 1999. They had a couple of sequels.
Yeah, the Mummy Returns, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Then you had the Scorpion King ones.
And then Tom Cruise done one.
Yeah, you're right. I've seen something with Tom Cruise. I don't know. For me, they were all like rip-offs of sort of Indiana Jones style films, which put me off of seeing them. So I like Indiana Jones. I'm not gonna sort of go out to watch them. But I think that you're right. I think there was a newer version now with Tom Cruise.
So man. So we got through all the Hammer House stuff. Hammer time's done.
Hammer time.
Stop. No hammer time. So let's go to our next one. And the next one is like started off as an old samurai film, then it got changed
Japanese
to different.
Film.
It got converted into different.
Then a western.
Then a western, then a sci-fi.
It's one of them classic stories that it works, and no matter what genre
no matter what genre, no matter what situation, it works every week in the 80s.
The story works.
The 18 do it every week.
18 was based on this. It was the same again. 18 was based on it.
Yeah.
And they used actors out of the original, or out of Magnificent Seven. They used some of the actors for the 18. They wanted James Coburn to be Hannibal, but he didn't want to do it. So they ended up getting George Peppard, who was in Battle Beyond the Stars. That's right. Yeah. Which is the space version, like you were just saying, of Magnificent Seven. So this story has been done so many times, but I like Magnificent Seven. Seven Samurai is good. It's the same. The farmers have to get some protection because someone's gonna rob them, come back in the harvest time and rob them. And that was the same story. It was the same story for the space version as well. They were space farmers, and they were going to get robbed by some gang, and they had to put a group or hire a group of bandits. Yeah.
But what's beautiful about these stories is that it's like helping others who can't help themselves. So it's like, do you know what I mean? I can help you, so you know, I'll get a band together or people specialize in what they're best at, and let's help you guys. And then
it makes a good film. It makes a good story.
And they even done it in The Mandalorian in season 1 and 1 episode when they all, you know, Mandalorian helped them out and they fought the bad guys and whatever. So it could be told in so many different ways. But as you were saying, Chris, we first saw it when we were little, when we watched the Western with Yul Brynner and all the rest of the lads and Charles Bronson and that. And it's something you watched it's a proper holiday program. It's Christmas, Easter. That's the only time it popped up. It wouldn't pop up on a standard Saturday night. It only pop up along with Jason the Argonauts, Digby the World's Greatest Dog. You only live twice. It goes in that mold. Do you know what I mean? Cannonball movie special. It goes in that mold.
And the policeman run.
Yes, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. You know, it goes on and on and on. But it was only years later, being a Star Wars fan, Star Wars has that same link too. Like George Lucas was influenced with the whole good and bad thing and the sword thing from that as well. So like, not knowing there was a samurai version, just thinking about it, saying well, the standalone. And then it progressed into the sci-fi that we know about Beyond the Stars, which is, that film is so misty in my mind.
It's weird. It's weird. It's one of them ones you can't watch it now. You can't. It seems like an alright film in my head, but I know now if you watch it now, the effects, the way it's shot, just the colouring, everything of it, you cannot watch it. It's one of them ones you cannot watch now. But back in the day, it was one of them ones that sneaked up on you. It just come out. I just found it. Like, it was old. What's this? And it had George Peppard in it, like you say.
George Peppard had John Boy from the Waltons in it.
Yeah, he was the main dude, wasn't he, John Boy?
Yeah, had the bad guy from the guy that was in Superman.
He was one of the original Magnificent Seven.
Magnificent Seven in the Western version.
Robert Vaughn.
That's right. It was hard for a sci-fi film to. Star Wars was the bar.
You couldn't.
And it was a bad time for any sci-fi to try and compete, because you just weren't doing it. It doesn't matter what came out. Dune tried, Space Pirates,
the Star Treks.
Star Treks.
It didn't work.
Didn't work. So Back Beyond the Stars was at the bottom. Back Beyond the Stars wasn't even getting past Rafa Khan, Krull,
Last Starfighter.
Yeah, it wasn't getting past them. It was a struggle, even though it had John Boy and all the rest of it, and George Peppard.
Space Cowboy.
It was on Beastmaster level. It was that and Beastmaster were like the bottom. You know them level films, like Extra in horrors. There's a film called Extra, a horror film. It was so.
I do remember it. Yeah.
So like Extra, Beastmaster, and Back Beyond the Stars were all the same league. You know that league, that whack league,
the Adora League,
and those cartoons that had the same kind of like drawing animation as Watership Down, but weren't as good. You know them kind of film cartoons. Yeah. They all were at the bottom of the league pile cartoons programs, and Back Beyond the Stars. Whack.
Yeah. Now, when you see it now, you'll be like, "Oh, I could have how I watched that." But I used to like it when it first came around.
But Magnificent Seven, like as a standalone film, was the equivalent now as watching The Expendables. Now, had all the action stars.
Yeah. Bronson,
Yul Brynner, Cole Brynner. It was The Expendables for the 60s. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It even ran off into British TV, and Alvida's Aim Pet is also sort of based on the Magnificent Seven. It was even a whole series. I think it was series 2, where they actually had episodes where they picked themselves characters out of the Magnificent Seven who they thought they'd be. But the concept of it was the same sort of thing. It was the lads went to Germany to help out.
That's living all right. Bloody hell. That show. You know when that show came on? You know when you're little? I remember.
Why did we watch that?
Fridays.
I don't know what was in it.
Because
I couldn't get into it.
No, the only reason why you watched it just is to stay up late. That's the only reason.
Yeah, it was on at like 10 o'clock or something.
Just to say I'm up late.
Yeah, stayed up till 11. I watched that.
It's one of those announcement programs. I was still up. You know what I mean?
I was living all right.
And you kiss the dames and you dance out the names. That's living all right. Mate,
So I remember
so
chatting
sad.
about it. Like we used to go to school and chat about it, and it was years later. I did think, what did we see in that program? Why did we watch? Like
The theme music. That's it.
Must have been the theme music. As youngsters from London growing up, what do we see in like Geordie Builders going to Germany? Like, but we used to watch it. We used to chat about it.
It was late. It was new. It was telly. That was it.
I used to die. Nah, I'd rather go bed.
Well, I like the night, man. In the 80s, I loved the night.
Staying up late was good.
Me and the night were amazing, man. But yeah, and then Denzel Washington had his version 20 years ago.
I haven't seen it. I need to catch up with that one now. I haven't seen it.
So it's a story that's always like vampires. Magnificent Seven always going to be remade for a new generation. So every generation can have the privilege of saying that's a remake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For the past how many years, generations have been able to say that's a remake. So
since the Japanese made it in 54, that original Japanese version.
So there you go. You know, generations upon generations. It's very influential. That one film spawned so many ideas. You know, from westerns to A-Teams to Star Wars and
exactly
every genre. And on. So let's get to our number two. Now, number two surprised me again because when I heard this film was out, I'm a big Robert De Niro fan, and in this time he was in his prime. You know, Goodfellas, Casino, everything. 90s, he was coming out. He coming out with films. Yeah. So. And Nick Nolte was that guy that, 48 Hours, Down out in Beverly Hills. You knew what he was, that guy that was just there in the background. So you appreciate anything he done, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so when I'm hearing about Cape Fear now, I'm like, this sounds like an interesting one. Do you know what I mean?
This sounds like a good film.
Good film. And only when the film came out, they were saying it's a remake.
It's a remake of an old
remake of an old Cape Fear. Yeah. For me, with Robert Mitchum, at the same time, he was a big actor of the time. Gregory Peck. They both in Omen films. So they played brothers. They were brothers in Omen, isn't it?
They were both in the 90s Cape Fear as well. They bought them.
Yes, they were.
They bought them in it as I think there was three actors. I think there was another guy. Can't think it wasn't, but I think it was three actors got bought back into the version that we know. Like
they were. But yeah, the 1991 version compared to the 1962 version, even though I know all the actors, but I do like the 1991. Maybe being biased because I'm a Robert De Niro fan. But what do you guys think of it, Cape Fear? Stacks, have you seen Cape Fear?
I think I might have seen it once.
Yeah,
I went to cinema to see this film. I remember
it would have been a newer one. I think. I'm not
the
sure.
De Niro one. Like you, De Niro was good. So I couldn't wait to see this as well, and it was a Scorsese film, so you knew but again, I didn't know it was an old film at the time, so I went to the cinema to see it, and I was like, yeah, that was good, like some good twists in it. I wasn't expecting this, and then it went until years later, like found out it was a remake, and only recently seeing the remake, the original. The original is really good, and it is a direct copy. From what I've seen, it's literally scene for scene.
Yeah.
The original one was actually produced by Gregory Peck, and it didn't do well when it came out because it was based on a novel called The Executioners. So he renamed it. He just put his finger on a map and found a place in North Carolina called Cape Fear. That's where they went sort of to get away. They made out they were going somewhere else, but they hid in Cape Fear, which is where the psycho catches up with them at the end. It didn't do too well, and I think it put his company pretty much under. Melville Productions it came out under, and it didn't do well, the original, but again years later becomes like a cult classic.
What you mean the 62 became a cult classic?
The 62 one, yeah, it went until years later that people did pick up on it. I think they did show the version that was unedited that's got a lot more violence in it, and a lot of the scenes that I was reading as well were filmed they were just improvised. A lot of the fight scenes with Robert Mitchum, and there was a scene where he throws the girl in it, Polly, through a door that was meant to be open, but somebody had locked it by mistake. So what you actually see on the film is her going through a shut door. Like all of that is he cuts his hand as his hand goes through it, and there's blood everywhere, and And it was only recently I saw that, and then I read it. I thought, yeah, I remember seeing that scene. It looked really good. That was why, because it was all first take. Yeah, it was real.
Cape Fear for real. Cape Fear. No, it's a Cape Fear for real. So yeah, so let's get into our number one, numero uno, man. So this movie, man, this is in my top 10 of movies, not horror movies, not sci-fi movies, not Kurt Russell movies, in movies. And when I saw this film, I was scared but fascinated, because I'd seen Alien, I'd seen The Exorcist, you know those kind of films where Predator, and out of all of those aliens, this one must be the most. It's like
I can't describe what it is. What is it?
Yeah. You can't.
Yeah, but you know what it is? It's a thing, isn't it?
It's a thing. It's just a thing, man.
Yeah,
like,
and that's
what is that thing?
What is that thing? And it wasn't until the 90s I realized that it's a remake of an old film called The Thing from Another Planet.
That's it.
And when I bumped into that, I think it's one of the films you bumped into by chance, like TCM movies, and like bump it, and it was, as you said, like the Cape Fear, the scene for scene. It wasn't scene for scene, but the whole seeing the snow cabin again.
Yeah. I can only remember that from the black and white. It was black and white, wasn't it?
Black and white, 1951.
Yeah, I can only remember the Arctic snowy, like the outside scene for some reason. I can't remember much more of it, but I know I have seen it.
It was that, listen here, boy, there's a thing outside. It was that kind of
proper 1950s,
yeah. It was proper like, I gotta get my sheepskin coat on.
You better take the goggles. It's bitterly cold out there, sir.
It's bitterly cold. There's a breeze out. I need some cocoa after. Mary, make some cocoa when I get back in. It's that type of film. But
it's one of them ones. I'm sure the thing in it was a man just dressed up. It wasn't like the effects were pretty shit.
But it was the effects for that time, because when you knowing the 1982 one, you see what they've done in the 50s, and it's the same way we see the ship had landed in the snow and they were looking at that happens as well. And I'm sure there's dogs as well, but the same fate don't happen to the dogs because of the effects and so on. But it was just the thing we saw in 1982. Sorry, it's a thing of wonder. Like because I said the other films you had seen, American Werewolf in London, it wrapped all that up. The effects wise, the way the dogs split into the thing, and you had the whole alien thing from it's an alien from a planet, but. When you were little, when you thought of aliens always seemed to say, we come in peace and really kill you and have guns and stuff. But this one was sneaky. He just went, it was like a virus. He just went in you now. I'm going to hit this. You needed a host each time,
And now everyone's paranoid. Have you got it? No, you've got it. He's got it. Like, it just makes everyone crazy, doesn't it?
It was sci-fi. Yeah, exactly. It was sci-fi. It was Guess Who. It was everything. Like the scene where when they're testing the blood and they get the blowtorch. Scene. Like
that scene is major.
That's good.
And that happens in the 50s one as well, but not again to not that extreme.
Like that,
But The Thing is a big remake.
It weren't when it came out though. It was everyone was like, it's too over gross. It's not. It was.
Yeah. But you know why? Because it came out the same time as E.T.
E.T.
Around that time.
Yeah, it did. E.T. I think there was a Star Trek as well.
Yeah. What alien do you want? Do you want this alien or this alien?
Yeah, cuddly looking one. Yeah, with the big finger.
Yeah,
or the messed up guts looking. Yeah. And I remember that was also, it was massively featured in the Fangoria, which we often mention. Wicked Horror magazine that we used to get in the 80s. It was heavily featured in that. And I remember there was a competition with, they wanted you to write in or draw what you think the thing was going to look like. So all I can remember is just guts. It looked like guts, just guts.
Well, I remember the poster, like that stretched kind of face, stretched face.
And that was burning or something.
And that was a poster for a long time. And I think that was a mistake they made. If you're trying to compete with ET, don't have a long face.
But then wasn't that stretched face kind of like the guy whose head come off the table?
That is, it was that.
It wasn't a good cover of a video. Like, it didn't attract you. It didn't make you want to. What's that about?
It looked like a video nasty. It was a video nasty.
Whereas I'd rather see the bloke with the parka, the newer looking one. That that's a bit more sci-fi.
That was better. Yeah, and I don't think I'd seen Kurt Russell. Escape from New York was around in times as well, but I think I'd seen The Thing first. Do you know what I mean? And I was used to aliens and snow from watching Empire Strikes Back. So I was familiar with those surroundings, you know what I mean? And it had the same feel as Alien did, because as a kid in the 80s, you know, it's like most films and programs you watched always had a soundtrack to tell you that there's fear around the corner. So it guided you to where you was going. But the thing didn't have that. You just watched this movie like you were in the snow as well. Do you know what I mean? Like you were watching this thing go on, this thing go on. So it brought a suspense that I'd never seen in a movie, because it wasn't a slasher.
It's still a sci-fi film, isn't
it? It was just jumping from body to body.
Never knew when it was going to rear its head. You never knew.
You were always on your edge, innit? Even when they were testing that blood bit, it was like something's going to happen. Something's going to jump out.
Just
it was well done.
Jumping from body to body. Did you guys see the prequel that came out in 2011?
Yes.
I like the prequel because it didn't mess, because you know what, they wanted to do the Thing too, but they said no. They said, the makers of the original Thing said no. It's a good film. I think that's the first time you've been able to tell Hollywood no. There's no sequel. If you're going to do anything, you do a prequel. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And that makes that film even more priceless. But it doesn't, you know, because you're still in wonder. You're like, did Kurt Russell and the black guy get rescued at the end? Like they were the only two survivors of the Thing. Do you know what I mean? And that's how the film ends. And it's for your imagination to imagine what happened to those two guys. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But the prequel, and that's why I didn't mind the prequel, because it still had those dogs before they died and stuff, and that whole, you know.
They kept it true.
They kept it true. It ended how the Thing begins, and that's what I like.
Yeah, that's good.
The prequel ends with the dogs running the way and they're trying to track down those dogs. Yeah. And I thought that was a really good way to, it felt like how similar, I'm not going to compare, but how you watch Mandalorian and go, and I see things from
Star Wars.
It's got a nice link to it. But Thing from Another Planet I recommend to watch, but I prefer the 1982 remake of the Thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's like you say, it's one of the top films, man. Definitely one of them top films.
I think it's in my top 5.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would. Yeah, it's an amazing film. It's an amazing. I said it's one of the many few films that doesn't need music. All it has is boom.
Yeah.
And that's enough.
That's enough. Like an Alien doesn't even have anything, you know. So, yeah, fantastic.
Top film, deserves to be top of the pile.
Yeah, top of the pile.
100%.
Top of the pile.
It was like John Carpenter, isn't it? So you know, he had them other films from that. You know, he's done loads of stuff with Kurt Russell, isn't it? Like
he's done Escape to LA, Escape to New York,
Big Trouble in Little China, not long after that as well.
Yeah. But
good pairing.
And you know what? And I don't even think I clocked that the guy from The Thing was the guy from Big Trouble in Little China. I was just, do you know what I mean? That's the guy from The Thing.
Yeah, it's the beard, isn't it? He hides behind the beard.
Yeah. But no, amazing. So guys, I think that wraps up our remakes of the 80s
remakes we loved. Yeah.
Back to listen to another show, guys. Always, we'll be back giving you the 80s vibes, all at the Old Skool Movements podcast. I'm Mr. Lucas.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Stats.
Till next time.
Peace.
Peace.